All right, hello. For me, it is spring break. I'm hoping you are having a restful and as well as productive. I've kind of done a little bit too much rest and not enough productivity, so I'm going to kick in the productivity now. Okay, so the code itself for what we're doing this week is not that bad. What is more complicated is what the heck we're trying to do. So I'm going to try to sort of explain both. And so the first thing I've done is you'll notice here for the cat plots for week 10, I've put that we're using categorical to categorical. It's another bivariate plot, just like last week, the quantitative to quantitative. This week, you're using both of your categorical variables. And if you look back, week 5 was the last time we did anything with our categorical variables. And so when I made oops, not that one, that's week 5, right? So when I made the week 10 file, I saved as with week 5. Okay. Um, and so here it is. And I've made some adjustments because since week 5 happened, Research Pi stopped working. So I took all instances of Research Pi out of this file and did the workaround that we're using now in case we want to do a frequency table. So you may or may not want to check things out as you go to try to troubleshoot what's going on. And these are the 3 lines you need to do this frequency table for a particular variable. The only thing that's not on here is what variable it is, but I think you can tell right from the code that it's the ASMA variable. Um, and so this should work for you if you're trying to do that. And the other thing that I did is in week 5, remember we did pie charts and bar charts and stuff for our categorical variables, and I took all that code out. What I left in was the data management and the formatting. Okay, so the cat plots that we're doing, they're called cat plots. I'll go ahead and jump to the code itself and explain a little bit what it's doing, but then I'm going to have to come back up here to show you what I've done to make it work. So I'm going to just scroll down to the bottom here, and what I've done here. First off, I copied my palette. I didn't like the color choices that were the default, and so I'm using that same palette that I created back when we did the bar charts. And part of what's complicated about this is it certainly looks like a bar chart, right? When you just glance at this, you go, "Oh, what percentage of the data set said no, they don't have asthma? What percentage of the data set said yes, they do have asthma?" But that's not what this is saying. In fact, it can't possibly be what this is saying because only 40% here for the no category and just a little bit more than 40% for the yes category. That doesn't add up to 100%. I kind of want to open up my week 5 again and show you what that bar chart for the asthma variable looked like. Here it was. No, that's glasses and contact use. Hold on. Where is it? Eh, this is wrong. This is the asthma variable. I left the label. This is, wow, asthma diagnosis. How embarrassing. Asthma diagnosis, and then the bar graph of asthma diagnosis. Wow, that's not cool. I deduct points. Ooh, hello. I deduct points from you when you do this wrong, and then I did it wrong myself. So asthma diagnosis, kind of good enough right there, I think. All right, let's rerun this whole thing. So sorry, I'm getting kind of delayed here, but I don't know. This is sort of good stuff. It happens. You have to kind of troubleshoot sometimes when you're doing things here. And so in this particular file, I hadn't yet taken out the Research Pi stuff, so I'm going to take that all out. I'm not going to go ahead and replace it with the new code that makes frequency tables. I'm just going to delete any of these frequency tables in here. I don't need them for this file right now. And so let's see if that worked. Runtime run all. Again, this is week 5, just looking at a bar chart. And the reason I'm going through this is I want to compare the bar chart for the asthma diagnosis, which is right here. Looks the same except for the labels. That's what I noticed and didn't like. And so this is, yes, people who got diagnosed with asthma versus no, people who didn't get diagnosed with asthma. And the default here is that you're doing counts. And I think stat equals percent. And it might need to be in quotes. Let's just do that. Yep, there we go. So only about 15% of the people in the data set were diagnosed with asthma, and about 85% were not diagnosed with asthma. That's looking at the entire data set, irregardless of whether they're wearing glasses or not. We're not looking at whether they're wearing glasses or not. We're just saying of the people who we didn't data manage out, who were left with values for this asthma diagnosis variable, about 15% of them were diagnosed with asthma, and the other 85% were not. Compare that to what we're looking at here. What this is doing is showing that if you weren't diagnosed with asthma, all those people, 85% of the data set wasn't diagnosed with asthma. Out of them, 40% of them wear glasses, and about 45% of the people who were diagnosed with asthma wore glasses. And that's what we're trying to look at here. Is there an association between these two variables? Is it more likely that if you've got asthma that you wear glasses? I mean, that was the speculation that more often people with asthma wear glasses, or maybe more often people who have eye troubles also have asthma. However you want to look at it, for this, thinking that asthma, whether you've been diagnosed with asthma, is the explanatory variable, and whether you wear glasses or not is the response, but you could do it the other way, right? And so this is a very different graph. It looks super similar, but it's in fact very different. Okay, so that's, hopefully this didn't take so long that you're like, what the heck? But that's kind of the distinction. What are you looking at in this graph? It's not everybody in the data set, whether they diagnosed with asthma or not. It's a bivariate graph trying to look at the association between these two categorical variables and looking at the proportion of people who weren't diagnosed with asthma who wear glasses versus the proportion of people who were diagnosed with, asthma who wear glasses. Okay, so that's what the graph is showing us. And we have to do a little bit of stuff in order to do that. So remember when we were looking at the proportion of folks in that first day survey that we did, so the proportion of the class who R&B is their favorite, I had to code everybody who liked R&B as ones, and everybody who didn't like R&B as their favorite was coded as 0, so that all of the Desmos had to do was just figure out the average of those ones and zeros that were ones. And that would, in essence, be the proportion. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to go back and we're going to look at, before formatting the eyewear and turning all the numbers into words, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, anybody that's a 1, and now I kind of want to look back here at the 1 meant they wore eyeglasses. Okay, so that wants to stay a 1. I'm looking for the proportion of people who wear eyeglasses. And so anybody that was a 1, back in the day, formatting, I turned them into eyeglasses because that's what 1 meant. But also the people that were a 3 also wore eyeglasses. Yeah, they wore contacts as well. They were both. But I wanted to turn the 1s, keep them 1s, but turn the 3s into 1s. And then the 2s and the 4s, I wanted to be 0. No, they don't wear glasses. And so that's what I've done here. It's very similar to the data management, but instead of getting rid of these numbers, I'm literally keeping the 1s at 1, so I'm not doing anything with the 1s, but I'm turning the 3s into 1s, the 2s into 0s, and the 4s into 0s. And you'll notice that my order that I do things here is very similar to the formatting, that I start out by making this thing called iWare code that's going to keep track of these 1s and 0s. And at first, I just copied iWare and replaced the 3s with 1s. But then from then on, I had to take that iWare code that I just created and replace in that the 2s with 0s. And then replace in that the 4s with 0s. I can't go back to just iWare here on the right. It won't work. So the very first time you're making iWare code, yeah, you got to copy it from iWare. But from then on, you're kind of building on what you had in the iWare code. So this code turns anybody who either wore eyeglasses or wore both into 1s. Yes, they wear eyeglasses. And anybody that just wore contacts or wore neither, they turned into no, don't wear eyeglasses. So that when it go down here and run this code, the explanatory variable is whether you have asthma or not, and then iWare code is the response. And so it does this proportion who wears eyeglasses because it averages those 1s and 0s. Similarly, if I want to go the other way around and I want to say, okay, my explanatory variable is where what your eyewear is, and your response is the proportion of those folks who have asthma. And we see here that the proportion of folks who wear glasses or both glasses and contacts who were diagnosed with asthma is a little bit higher than if you didn't wear eyeglasses or contacts, or you just wore contacts. Not by much. It's like 16 point something percent instead of 14 point something percent. But there is a difference whether I have eyewear as my explanatory or asthma as my explanatory. It looks like there's a little bit of a difference. Is it statistically significant? Okay, we haven't done the hypothesis tests yet. But this is ultimately what you're trying to get. And you have to make sure that before you do the formatting for a variable, you create, let's see, am I in the wrong thing? No, 10. Where did I create the asthma code? Asthma code, where are you? What? I don't see where I created asthma code. There's eyewear code. Oh, right here. It was so small. I missed it. Because after you've data managed, all there is 1s and 0s, right? The 1s meant you were diagnosed with asthma, and the 0s meant you were not diagnosed with asthma. You don't want this formatting for that cat plot. So right before I did the formatting, I created this thing called asthma code that was literally just asthma. I didn't have to collapse it in any way. I just wanted to copy it. And so that's why this code actually worked down here. Okay, super long video. I apologize, but hopefully there was some stuff in there that helped you out. And you fast forwarded through anything that was boring and didn't help you. All right, talk to you later. Bye.